Hey YouTube, this is Southern Prepper 1. I want to talk about mistakes that I have made, and hopefully you don't have to make them. I saw a couple comments in the past and one recently yesterday. What mistakes have you made? And so we don't make them. So you might want to get a pen and paper, because this will save you time, it'll save you money, and you'll learn from what I've done wrong and hopefully what I've done right. First of all, I'm going to go fast through these because I have a bunch. Now these aren't game changers that you're going to die in an SHTF, but they will help you. It might help you on some pain, because the first one, I've felt some pain on this one, literally. Chicken coop too low. I've had a few chicken coops. The red one that we've had in the corner, that's now where the children's play fort is. The one section was too low. I was sort of saving material, thinking keep it lower, maybe keep it warmer in the winter. Mistake. I hit my head so many times. Also, with that low roof, was very low to the ground, which would cause the sun to heat those shingles up, and the heat was closer to the chickens, so the chickens were hotter. So don't make that same mistake. Full height. We'll be able to walk in there and not hit your head, even on the doorway. The one we have now, I hit my head all the time on it because I have to duck, and I don't sometimes duck far enough. Fencing. I have field fence on my property. The problem is the bottom pieces near the bottom where the chickens can jump through. The squares keep most animals through, but chickens can get through. So don't use field fence. Use something woven. If you have a small cat, a dog, they can get through field fence pretty easily. If you have goats, a lot of times goats will get their heads through there to get the grass on the other side, and if they got horns, they get stuck in there. So look at what you're trying to keep in and get the proper fencing. Field fence is cheaper than some of the more like the horse fence or the fence designed like for sheep, but it's well worth to spend a little extra money and not have that hassle, especially if you have small dog or puppy, because they can get out. More flat ground. I live in the upstate of South Carolina. I live in the mountains. It's beautiful. You need more flat ground. I wish my piece was flat as can be. It'd be boring to me because I like the rolling, but more flat ground. Tractor. Get the right tractor. My buddy right over here, he bought a tractor, needed tons of work. He's still working on it. Then he decided that ain't gonna work, so he bought another one. I did the same thing, so I can't say anything. When we cleared all those fields right there, I bought an orchard tractor that didn't have a front end loader on it. It was like $600 or $700. I could afford it. It barely ran. It was a pain. The brakes were bad. I parked it and then eventually sold it. Get the right tractor. I have a John Deere right now. I wish I'd have bought that a lot earlier because it saves my back so much work. I'm going to do a separate video on my small little John Deere and what I would want if you were doing a homestead or a retreat in a tractor. Next, underground power. From the pole to your house underground. That way you don't have to worry about it down the road. A woodshed. I still need a proper woodshed. I have that canopy, carport canopy I put up, and I have some wood stored there. I have wood stored here and here. It's a pain. You can put plastic on it. You can put metal on it. Bad storms blows it off. You got to tie it down. A pain in the butt. Get a proper woodshed. More land. That's a no-brainer there. But don't put off buying something because, oh, I need more land, I need more land, I need more money. I'd rather have a little bit less land, but get on it earlier and get it developed now. No burying stumps. Say you get the land cleared and the guy doing the land said, we'll dig a big hole there and we'll push all the stumps in there and then we'll put some dirt on it. Tell him no. It's going to cost you lots more money to haul it off or to burn it. I have a spot right there that I didn't do it, but when they put the road in, this is all private owned. This road is owned by the landowners. The guy dug a hole right here and buried a bunch of stumps. And I'm paying for it because every few years I have to bring in some dirt, put it on there, and put new grass seed because it's sinking. And now it might take 15, 20 years, but it will settle big time. And that's also a little problem if you got a small tractor and you start developing ruts. Very unsafe. You got a piece of property. If it is rolling or it's a little bit hilly, on your highest section, it might just be a woodshed, it might be a storage building, it could be anything. But put a structure up. It might be just a pavilion where you could go up there and have a picnic. Put something up, metal roof, to collect water. Put some rain catchment system on that, so that way you have water collected for free at your highest point, and then you can use that to gravity feed it to locations. 1 for irrigation, 2 for fire protection. Oh, a pump always goes down. I've seen it with fire engines. They go down when you need it the most. The roaring fire, and someone can't get something working. So at least having gravity fed will give you a fighting chance. Next, put piping in for irrigation. And when you figure out your master plan, because what you're going to do is start working on your property, making areas pretty, and then you say, oh man, I should have trenched through there, and I should have put a 2-inch fire line there, I should have put an irrigation line here. Come up with a plan and get all these in. From your well, put some lines in, maybe run from your well up to your highest point. And I'm talking, if it's only 10 or 15 feet, that's still some gravity fed. It's not a lot of pressure, but it's moving water from the well, piping up to your rain catchment system in case worst case it doesn't rain and you want to fill those up or top them off. Put your piping in, more piping than you need. PVC is actually cheap. The expensive thing is the trenching or using a mini excavator or doing it yourself. That's the expensive part. The pipe is cheap. Survey pins. You get your property surveyed, go ahead and put bigger pins where they put their little pins. I really don't have a problem with this, only one location. Because we own to the center of the road, that pin right there that connects the 3 neighbors here must have been removed with just grading and maintenance on the road because we can't find it. It's really not a really big deal, but I would like to know exactly where that pin is. So, especially if your pins are located in the road, come right off the road and mark them. If it's a city or a county-owned road, you know, especially that. But even a private road, mark it in. Neighbors. Look at your neighbors. You're buying a piece of property, and you look up and say, wow, that's almost a pasture there. There's only a few trees and some shrubs and junk in there. The neighbor might see the same thing, or a new future owner, and say, hey, let's put a field in here. So think of that when you're doing your runoff plan. You say, okay, I envision in 5 years that neighbor clearing those 4 acres, and all that water could be dumping onto me. So make sure you put away bigger culverts. If you got driveways, you might, oh, I can get away with an 8-inch culvert, a 12-inch culvert. No, 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 no. The biggest thing you can learn is put a big 18-inch culvert in there. If there's a lot of water going to be running through it, put a 24-inch. Double what you think you're going to need. Trust me, because I can walk down this private road right here, and I can show you culvert after culvert after culvert that I think are too small. I think there's a couple 12-inch ones, and they're slam full. The culvert right there is a big one, but it's slam full. Big culverts, and maintain them. If it starts to collect dirt in the bottom of that culvert, get in there with that hoe and drag it out, because it's so much harder when that culvert's full. If it's a 24-foot culvert, it's almost impossible to clean out. It takes a ton of work. Bigger culverts. Take out junk trees. You look at your property and say, oh, that tree's been damaged, it's junk, it's diseased, and you say, I'll get it later. Later turns into 5 years, later turns into 8 years, and you're saying, dang, a tree's still growing, but it's worth nothing because it's junk. And what's happening is the trees around it are developing into junk trees because that junk tree is taking the nutrients, taking everything from the soil, it's taking all of the sunlight, and the trees around it aren't really going to be their full potential. So get rid of junk trees immediately to allow good smaller trees to grow bigger. You find your building site, trees. Don't say, oh, let's get started. Get any tree that could potentially fall on it, especially trees that are leaning towards the building, Immediately, wait, before you start. It's so much cheaper to have someone, if you can't do it yourself, to come in there and cut the trees down without a structure there. You put a structure in there, and then guys have to be very careful. They might need to bring in bucket trucks. They might have to climb the tree instead of just cutting it down and letting it fall. Get the trees out of your way. You're going to save so much money. It could be the difference between a $500 tree removal to a $5,000 tree removal, because you put your house there and they have to come in there and cut every piece and swing it out and drop it down. Propane tanks. I use propane for a few things, but mine is more emergency. But I have talked to a lot of people that always, I wish I put a bigger propane tank in. I went cheap and I got the 250 gallon, the 500. I wish I put 1,000. Bigger propane tank right off the bat will probably not be regretted. Big thing right here, no animals, no birds, no rabbits, no chickens, no ducks, no whatever, sheep, goats, until you are totally ready. It is so ready that you can go in there and fill their water up and put food in their dish or however you feed them, then you're ready. So many people, I've done it, you get something, it's like, oh, I'm not ready. So you're scrambling around trying to get this animal situated, and it never works out the best. Be totally ready for animals. Or you get too many animals. You get too many goats or chickens or whatever, and you have them on grass, and all of a sudden, a week later, it's like, oh my gosh, my grass is gone. I got 10 goats when I should have 5 goats. Don't make that mistake. Figure out what you got, and get the proper amount of animals so you don't destroy your grass. Waste plan. If you got animals, no matter if it's rabbits, chickens, anything, make sure you can get all that waste material, manure, rabbit pellets, chicken manure, out of that area. Make sure your wheelbarrow can fit through every door. If it can't, it's a pain putting it in 5-gallon buckets. So, or you might say, I'm going to be using a tractor. Make sure your tractor can get in there and you can get it shoveled out, and make sure you can go from there to a compost pile. If your compost pile, you can't get at it with your tractor, figure out another way, because eventually you're going to want to get that rich dirt, and the easiest way is to come in there with your tractor, take a big scoop. It saves you hours of time. Another mistake I've made, and my son especially, because he's a welder and he loves welding. Chicken tractor's too heavy. Chicken tractor's too heavy. When it takes 2 people to move a chicken tractor, you're wrong, because a lot of times you're only going to have 1 person. So you delay moving that chicken tractor. Next, grass. Get the grass going. Weeds are fine for goats, but grass is what you want. Get your grass planted. Get it going and make it strong. Storage. You can never have enough storage, especially inside your pantry. Your wife keeps buying things, you keep buying things. You gotta have proper storage, or you're gonna have waste because you're not have place to store it. Probably the biggest thing is take advice, take suggestions, take the desires of your spouse. Make sure before you do a major project that they totally sign off on it, and not just sign off on it because they know you want to do it, but they are totally in agreement. Probably the biggest thing. So these are some mistakes I've made. Hopefully you can take these mistakes and you won't have to make them. It'll save you money and it will save you time. Thanks for watching.